such a wonderful time this last 5 weeks, delving into the insights of Eric Butterworth. What an amazing human being, and such an influence in so many people's lives, because he told it the way he saw it. He told the truth the way he saw it, and he didn't care if someone else agreed with him or not. We have looked at Discover the Power Within You as we've gone through this series about staying in the flow during turbulent times, and I should say during the appearance of turbulent times. Certainly looks that way, doesn't it? And in the first week we talked about the Discover the Power Within You, which is we learned, which we already knew, but we knew again and again, that the power, the Christ consciousness, the Christ lives within each and every one of us. In the universe's calling, we focused on the function and the power and the practical aspects of prayer, and how important prayer, the kind of prayer we just had, can be in our everyday lives in terms of manifesting that which we desire. We are the magicians of our lives. Was it Francis Scovel Shin, I believe it was, who wrote the book called Your Word is Your Wand. Remember that? Your word is your wand. I always remember that. I love that. With our word, with our thoughts, how powerful that we are. And we looked at in the flow of life last week, which was allowing the universe to come to you while you stand still, quiet, peaceful, and allow yourself to be the center of the universe. Remember that beautiful sunburst idea? Any of you think about that this week? I did a few times when I was thinking out there, and then I stopped. You see, I get the benefit of teaching my own lessons and then learning from them. I stopped and I thought, I have to stand still and be still and be confident and wait for those answers to come that I know are there. Right now, I'm bumping my head against the wall. And when you work with people who don't get it, it's a bit challenging, isn't it? Because you want to say, wait a minute, we can't push, force, shove, and sucker punch someone to believe what we believe, or come along with what we want, or accept the ideas that we think we want. We have to trust and be still. So, I did some of that this week. I hope some of you are enjoying that knowledge as well. And then today's spiritual economics, which I hadn't read before. So I get the beautiful opportunity to read all of this. I start early in the week, and then I get all pumped up about it. So today, spiritual economics. And one of the things, of course, that Butterworth emphasizes through everything that we have talked about for the last 5 weeks, and actually we have whole 6 weeks of positive thinking before that. So we have really been inundated with a lot of positive thinking. Is some of it sticking a little bit? Are you finding it sticking just a bit? I hope so. It is for me. Sticking. I'm getting it. It's becoming the first thought I go to, rather than the second or third or fourth. Wait a minute. I am the center of the universe. I can figure this out. I can sort this out. I can wait. I can be an example for others. It's a challenge to be an example for others, especially if it's family. To say, wait a minute, I don't work that way anymore. Some of you experiencing that, I just don't work that way anymore. I'm changing. I'm growing. I'm becoming more of who I really am. And I know that's true about you all. I know that. You're becoming more and more of who you really are. You're going to the principles that you know to be true to solve those challenges that come to you, rather than going back to the old way, which is trying to fix everything and everybody. Am I right? Good, good. Our affirmation for today, did we have that up there yet, Mary, or did I miss it? When I establish myself in the consciousness of God, I am richly endowed with the abundance of the universe. Now, we've heard these things before. The thing about Eric Butterworth's writing, and Charles Fillmore's writing, and Emily Cady, and Myrtle Fillmore, and all the others is, truth is truth is truth, and we're going to hear it over and over again. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. So when we immerse ourselves in the key word in this affirmation is consciousness. When we immerse ourselves in the consciousness of the universe. We'll talk a little bit more about consciousness in a few minutes. Eric Butterworth tells the story of J.C. Penney. When he first established himself, he was very, very deeply entrenched in spiritual principles, and he made a lot of money early on in his career. And some of you are of the age that I am, that J.C. Penney used to be the place you went. How many of you had that experience as a kid? You went to J.C. Penney, and Penney's was everything. There was the Penney's up on High Street in Jefferson City. And then they moved out to one of the plazas, but we went to Penney's. And you've probably heard some of the stories about how he used to pick up pennies. He used to pick up, or maybe that was Woolworth, I can't remember which it was, but one of them used to pick up pennies. Who was it?
Probably all of them.
Could be all of them, right. It's wonderful to see you, by the way, lady. Thank you for being here. Anyways, J.C. Penney got rich so fast that he lost sight of his spiritual principles for a period of time. Butterworth tells his story in his book. And what happened, of course, would be what we would think might happen is his riches and his fortune fell away. He lost sight of where his riches and fortune had come from. He was talking about the fact that it came, of course, from God. It came from, he didn't use the word source in those days. However, Butterworth uses the word source in his book, Spiritual Economics. I was surprised to see that with a capital S. Pleased to see it. And he said, it's the same as God. And he said, universe. I'm using it interchangeably with God. God, source, universe, presence, substance. That was one of Charles Fillmore's favorite words, was substance, unlimited substance. But anyway, when J.C. Penney was about 57, he found himself broke again. But he had the wherewithal to regroup and come back together, come back to his spiritual principles as to where his wealth had ultimately come from, and able to regain his dynasty, so to speak. Butterworth believed that within each of us, that there is an inner urge to live life to the fullest, and to share that fullness with others. I had to think about this. I had to think about it in my own life, my own career. I have a very long career, as many of you have had. Career, by that I mean life's journey. Whatever journey we were on. Think about that journey for yourself. Was it primarily to get the most out of life? I'm not talking about money, but get the most out of life, and then to share as much as you could with others. How many of you feel like that was kind of who you have been? If you were a teacher, if you work with other people, if you've written a book, I'm going to pick on you, Dale, you have this urge to share. Am I right? Just wanna share the good things in life. I've always been a teacher and a counselor all my life, and then working individually with women and in groups and so on, and presenting. I've always had that. He believes that is innate in everyone, which is a wonderful, optimistic thought, isn't it? Because we see demonstrations today and we wonder, is that what we're experiencing? Is that the appearance of what we're experiencing in our world right now today? You understand what I'm saying? Does each individual really want to share the best of what they have? Well, Eric believed that, and he believed that was innate in the teachings of Jesus. And he felt that was an important aspect of spiritual economics, was that desire, that will to share. I guess that's why I'm right here and not home watching Oprah on her Sunday morning show, having a third or fourth cup of coffee. That's why you're here. Well, you made the effort to be here, to come and share and be here, because sharing your energy here, coming, is so important. I wish I could look into every little head out there and just say to you, you're so important, your presence here is so important, your vibration that you bring here is so important, not just to me personally, but to us in this building. You understand that, don't you? You get that. So another aspect of spiritual economics is it's not the accumulation of things, but the will to serve and share the abundant life. And he says that is available to everyone, no matter what their economic status might be. That willingness to share and abundance for him is not about money, though he believes there's no separation between abundance and abundant money. In other words, once you are in that flow of abundance, that flow of abundant universe, with all the beauty and the joy that you see every moment, when you don't feel like it sometimes, that's the abundant life. Jesus said, I want you to have life and have it more abundantly. That wonderful word, abundant. He said, part of abundance is the willingness to listen to your inner voice and act on it. Act on it with vision and action. I've been to wonderful workshops before by different people, and they've always tapped me on the shoulder metaphorically and said, you and you and you and you have a wonderful idea up here of something that you want to do, and you know you can do it, and you know you have the capability to do it. Could be small or large, it doesn't matter. And what are you allowing to hold you back from acting on it? I believe that for many of us, that's the key. What are we allowing to hold us back? Is it obligation to others? Is it obligation to things? Is it obligation to old methods and old teachings and old trainings? Have you asked yourself that? I have. What is holding me back? He says acting upon it is an act of abundance. Really an interesting way of looking at it. He wrote this in 1993, this book, and he said, our world is changing, technology is changing, people are changing, 1993. And he said faith and vision are going to be more and more important over the next several decades and beyond. Faith and vision in the ability to carry out that which you know you're capable of doing. But you are letting something, and it's consciousness, it's in your consciousness, it's simply in your head, hold you back. I know where I am. I'm working with it. But I know that I'm allowing certain things to hold me back from doing that which brings me the greatest joy ever. Anybody else in here can relate to that or not? Okay. So changing our consciousness, changing knowing, now is the time. There's no better time. He wrote this in 93. How many years later are we? 20, 30? But somebody could have, Thoreau was writing like this, and many of those other wonderful New Thought thinkers that we talked about earlier were talking like this too. And he believes, and I believe, that you're never going to be happy and satisfied really in here until you begin to take those steps to move this to here so you can do this here. Move this here, you can do this. And then trusting that the flow is going to open those doors for you. That's what he says is true abundance. And if money comes with it, fantastic. He had this wonderful term. He said, you know, you hear about healthful things, healthful, health food store, healthy, healthful. That, he said, basically means good food, good rest. And I love this. And living in an environment of high vibration. You know, you got to really get into some of these people to realize that some of these terms that are kind of really up to snuff right now, that term vibration, Abraham Hicks uses that so much, and so he uses it, and who else used it quite a bit was Charles Fillmore, talking about the vibration of unlimited substance. That means we have to come to that level where we're just like hand in glove with the universe. Negativity, grumbling, I can't, I won't, it won't work, or allowing someone else to say those things to you. Your vibration's here. You get what I'm saying? It's like a puzzle. True abundance is manifesting that which is in your heart to do. That's what I want to encourage each and every one of us today to do, if you have that. Everybody has it, in one form or another. So he decided, not surprising, knowing Eric Butterworth, he was going to coin his own word called wealthful instead of healthful. So he coined a new word. Wealthful. He says, use it often. I am wealthful. Say that out loud. I am wealthful. I am full of wealth. I am wealthful. I love that. Establish yourself in those things that are conducive to prosperity. Establish yourself in those things, those thoughts that are conducive to prosperity. Boy, there's discipline involved in this, isn't there? It's discipline. Turn away from the talk of lack. Turn away from the talk of layoffs. Turn away from the talk of limitation. Some of these I throw in. Turn away from the negative news. Turn away from it. He says if you can't watch the news and sit there with calm, you're not ready for it. So that's a challenge for all of us. Here's a good one. Focus on the omnipresence, which means entire, never-ending, never-lacking presence of universal substance, of what, or God substance, whatever you want to call it. Focus on that. Be a Pollyanna of sorts. Be a spiritual Pollyanna. It's a beautiful day, like you started out today, Judy. It's a beautiful day. It's a lovely day. It has and he talked about the fact that if you're having difficulty finding things that are absolutely beautiful and full of this opulence, and turn to nature, or turn to something you absolutely love for a period of time. I have something I do. 2 things. I'm sure some of you have things you do. If I'm sitting at my computer and I'm feeling a bit depressed, I know my signs. I know my signs because things aren't flowing. And it's an effort, and I'm like, I stop, I put on some music that I love, and I cook something. That's my trick, and I know myself. Any of you have those tricks? I made the best corn chowder the other night, totally out of creativity. I had seen something on the internet for elote, which is street corn, and I turned it into a chowder. I swear it was the best thing I've ever made. And I was just inspired. I thought, I've got to write this down. I've got to write this down. I've got to write this down. I had Enya playing. I love Enya. And when I used to go to Sedona many, many years ago, the first time I ever went to Sedona, I had headphones and a cassette player. And I had Enya's original Paint the Sky with Stars. Some of you know it, I'm sure. And played it over and over and over and over and over again, walking those red paths and hiking trails, so I can bring myself to that place. And then I forget, and then I'll go back to what I was doing, and it seems okay. Those are little tricks we can play on ourselves. I call them tricks of self-love. Because the old way, you grew up in a work ethic type family like mine, the old way was, you finish the job. But now I can take a break, and so can you. Because we're all grown up now. We can do that. Look at nature. Look at the creativity of nature, and I know some of you are wonderful gardeners. When you go and pick something beautiful off your plants, your tomatoes, Mary, by the way, were wonderful, you know, and my cactus has new growth like this, that makes me happy. So my point about all of that was vibration. If your vibration is down, and we all get down a bit at times, I would say depression is just sort of being out of sync with your soul's vibration. And if you're a sensitive person, like many of us in this room are, that feeling of depression, like I don't want to do this, seems too much today, in fact I hate this, I'm not doing it, it's that we're out of sync with our soul's vibration. We need to recalibrate. And in that recalibrating, then we make abundance available to us again. Abundance is always there. We just shut ourselves off from it. So that's what he said wealthful means. To think wealthful. Change your vibration. And we know we can do that, don't we? We know we can do it. It's not always easy. But you can be aware of that. When you're feeling a little bit down and heavy, pick something that really feels good to you and shift your vibration back to where you know you want it to be. So think thoughts of prosperity, substance, think affluence, and he said affluence can mean many different things. Could mean that beautiful pot of corn chowder I made. That I ate on for days. It was so delicious. The Mexican cheese on top, you know. I kept adding, having fun. And I forgot about being depressed. Spiritual economics, according to Eric Butterworth, is all about such thoughts. It's all about such thoughts. Focus on the omnipresence of universal substance. Focus on the omnipresence. He talked about the fact that, and many of you probably know this statement, is that Charles Fillmore shocked the religious world and also some of the unity world when he said, "It is a sin to be poor." How many of you have heard that? Charles, one of his famous quotes. It's a sin to be poor. It's a sin to be poor. And he wasn't talking about money in specifics. He was talking about the fact that the universe, unlimited, infinite substance, is available to everyone. And to not be able to tap into that, not to tap into that in your day-to-day life. You see, spiritual economics isn't about money. Now, it doesn't exclude money. It doesn't exclude things. Things are fun. Things are wonderful. But that's not the goal of it. The goal of it is to live in that mindset, in that vibration of abundance and affluence. To see the best in everything. To pick out the one thing. He is not the only one that has said many times, you can always find one good thing in the worst of situations. We're training our minds. Do you get that? To see the cup half full rather than half empty. We've all heard that expression, haven't we? I was watching a movie this weekend, and it never fails. When I'm young fashioned. I'm not going to say old fashioned. I'm young fashioned. I rent movies from the Jefferson City Library, and I pick out what I want off the internet, and then I call them, and those sweet ladies will get them off the shelf for me, and then I can go and do it by pickup. How's that for lazy? Well, it's the system now, and I'm using it. It's abundance. But I happened to pick A Beautiful Mind this week. How many of you have seen that with Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly? It's the story of John Nash, professor of mathematics at Princeton, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia. True story. And directed by Ron Howard, whom I have always admired as a director. Why am I telling you this story? Because my point is, every time I rent a movie from the library, it directly relates to what I'm going to be teaching during the week. But there was the most beautiful, beautiful scene in the movie where, if you've seen it, I'll tell you just briefly, in his paranoid schizophrenia, everything in his life falls apart. And he loses his job at Princeton. He's off his medication. He's a mess, as we would say, a total mess. Putting that in quotes. And he has a wife that believes in him. And then his worst and lowest point, he thinks she's leaving. When she decides not to leave, the psychiatrist does leave. It's a great line where she said, she walks back in and says, he told me to call him if he tried to kill me or something. She was kind of kidding, but not. And then she takes him in her arms, and she says, I've got to believe that something extraordinary is going to happen. And it does. Within 2 months, he's back teaching just in the library in law of attraction. Students begin to gather, come up to him, want to know what's going on. One young man had seen his theories. And you would, by all appearances, you would think there was no way that this person could ever recover. And it was her love and her belief. It didn't go so well at first when he went back, but she said, we'll try again tomorrow. And he was nominated and won the Nobel Peace Prize. Not Peace Prize, but he won the Nobel Prize for mathematics. And accepted it. I believe it was in Oslo. So what it reminded me of was what we have been talking about. Abundance, love, positivity, despite appearances. And I have to tell you, I was so touched, I cried and cried. I just thought, yes, it's just what we're talking about. Just what we're talking about. Let's take just a few minutes